Two of the most prominent figures in the scene of Apex Legends have now come out to say that they are worried about Apex Legends, and then even giving exclusive detail as to what they think could help fix the situation that we are in. Surprisingly, one of the people interviewed did make great points for not only the pro players, but casuals as well. Not sure that I've actually seen an interview quite like this one, so let's dive in and talk about what Imperial How and It's Timmy, two of the biggest content creators and pro players in this game, had to say about the future and why they are worried. So firstly, Alpha Intel started this conversation just days ago saying despite the Season 23 launch, Apex Legends average player count still on Steam remains under 100,000 players. Have you been playing more or less this season? And it seems like the numbers are definitely not lining up to be what we had hoped for. Alpha Intel also had reported that Imperial House specifically in an interview said, "I'm pretty afraid. I feel like the last couple of months there hasn't been a sign of life." And as they interviewed them individually, here is some of the talking points that you heard from both. They say in the article that It's Timmy and Imperial How are not blind to this recent decline of Apex, and they both voiced their fears about the state of Apex. Timmy saying, "For me, as a little bit of a mixed content creator and pro player, I think that when it comes to content, as the game gets progressively older and older, it gets kind of hard to keep up with the pace. It's just that things are no longer impressive to watch anymore because you've seen it like 1,000 times. Unless they do a massive overhaul where all the characters are different and all the guns are different, Apex will just never have that fresh feeling." But it's pretty difficult right now because they're trying to cater to the casuals and they're also trying to cater to the pro players. And ultimately, when you choose one side, the other side is going to complain. And where we are right now, the game is very competitive driven. People only watch Apex to watch scrims or watch tournaments. A lot of you are probably going to have an issue with this in the comments because you think that, oh, these pro players think that Apex just revolves around them. But I do want to at least say Timmy is definitely correct, at least in the Twitch world, at least in the live streaming world. Not many people are watching just casual pub stompers anymore, besides maybe Fade, maybe a couple others. But really, it's about tournaments and it's about scrim results. That's pretty much all that Twitch Apex Legends has become. Now, there's still some pretty viral stuff out there with public trolling or whatever the case may be on YouTube or TikTok. Not saying that that stuff doesn't exist, but for the most part, your average viewership for Twitch streaming is definitely Twitch tournaments or Apex ALGS tournaments or scrim results, just like Timmy said. Then also, we see some results coming from Imperial How. Here's what he had to say, saying, "I am pretty afraid. I feel like in the last couple of months, there hasn't been a sign of life in any way. Apex realizes how crap it is going downhill, but they haven't showed me personally, or probably a lot of players, that they're trying to make good changes and more positive changes." This is very concerning because a long time ago, devs and many others would just reach out to these pros. "Hey, here's what we're doing. Here's what we're working on. Let us know what you think." And you would see these pro players start to hype up like, "Hey guys, we've got some cool stuff down the line." We have not really heard that anymore. And actually, the only thing I have heard was from a leaker who said that I've seen a lot of stuff and none of it really looks good. So that is definitely alarming, and especially one of the biggest poster boys for Apex Legends, Imperial How, not having good news or not saying he's seen anything that looks promising. That definitely does make you worry. How also argued that all the content they added in Season 23 was nowhere near enough to be able to keep up with the competition. And he also said you can rework all these characters as much as you want to, but the biggest issue with the game isn't that the devs are picking sides, like caters to casuals or pros, but more so that the fundamental systems of the game are becoming a problem. Both the rank system and the content in the game are problematic. And not only are they fighting against themselves, but they're fighting against Black Ops 6 and other big names like Valorant, League of Legends, whatever the case may be. You know, Deadlock that's just recently coming out. They're fighting all these other big games at the same time, and they're not even matching what they're giving. If you are not even going to do the bare minimum, you're just going to go downhill gradually, which is what's been happening, right? That's what Hal says. And then he says their biggest problem has always been content. You wait 3 or 4 months, a new season comes out, they buff a character or two, and it's like, okay, now this character is meta, but this character's been in the game for a while now, they've been playing it, and it's not really anything new, and it's not anything that's more popular, really. While both Hal and Timmy agreed Apex Legends can return to form, it will also only be done if Respawn can implement improvements to its core systems. Right now, they just need to stem the bleeding, says Alpha Intel, saying we also spoke about legend balancing with these people. Their biggest concern is that while there is a path to, sustainability or fixing all of this, Apex just might not be ready for it. And that's where we get into the next article that they wrote in their interview. When they asked them how would they improve ranked, Hal suggests a solo queue only playlist, but says Apex isn't ready for it. As you dive into this article, conversation they specifically had in a word-for-word verbatim from this Dexerto article is coming from Hal, starting it off by saying, yeah, solo queue is not fun at all. I always do 3 stacks, so I'm chilling, no problem. I feel like there needs to be a way for solo queuers to be able to play the game without dealing with the downside of running into like a 3-stack pro team. One idea is to just separate solo queuers, duo queuers, and 3 stacks somehow. So like if someone's solo, you just have an entire lobby full of other people playing solo. You'd need more servers, but people don't like to get on the game and literally have 0 chance. Fair point to make, and I think that's been one of the biggest reasons that you guys always complain in the comments about skill-based matchmaking. Hal says, like, I'm a pro player, I've solo queued before, and I ran into 3-stack pro teams. I don't even have a chance, and I'm a pro player going against these guys. As soon as I see them in my lobby, it's like, all right, I'm just going to try to hide until I run into them. Alpha Intel chimed in there saying, you know, if that's the case, let alone some plat player, which a lot of us are, you know, that would just be terrible. Hal followed it up by saying, yeah, exactly. That's a huge problem. Other games don't even have that problem, I feel like. Timmy says that's because they have restrictions. I also would like to add in it's because how big the lobby size is. You know, when you only have a 3v3, it's much easier to balance that lobby. When you have 60 players in the game, it gets really tough to balance that lobby, and I think that's one of the core fundamental issues with Battle Royale that they're always trying to work on. And anyways, the conversation does continue. Hal says, like, League of Legends is only 2 players max when you queue. And Timmy says, once you reach a certain rank, you're no longer allowed to stack anymore, and you have to either play with a solo, or with a duo. Hal said something like that should be implemented into Apex. Once you get to a certain rank like Diamond or Masters, you can no longer 3-stack, and you can only solo queue. I think that would be cooler. Timmy says, I think they should have only 2 queues, one for 3 stacks, and then one's for solo and duos. Hal says yes, but the biggest issue is that if you separated it so much, the queues would be so bad. Timmy followed it up by saying the main issue right now is definitely the player base. They can't separate it because the player base is so small. Like, look at the numbers. We're dropping. The less you drop or the more you drop, you can't fill these lobbies up as much. You have to start combining these ranks together. The solo queuers, the 3-stackers. And if we had a bigger player base like we used to, we would have more options and opportunities. And I agree. I think they should have done a lot of this stuff a long time ago. He says, Timmy, I think that comes later where they split the queues, but right now they just need to worry about actual content. Timmy and Hal both had strong feelings about the content in Apex Legends or lack thereof, claiming that the game's inability to capture a new audience or give players a reason to come back is even a bigger issue. So massive concerns today coming out from Imperial Hal and Timmy from this exclusive interview from Alpha Intel. Interested to see what your thoughts are on all of this down in the comments below. It's been a conversation that has been heavy, a real big talking point as of late. What saddens me about all of this is I think Hal and Timmy make great points is that there is a path to a better game. There is an option. There is a route. There is a way to fix a lot of this, I believe. The question is, do we trust EA or Respawn or Apex to actually implement it? Do we trust for them to actually do it? That is the question. Or are we just going to take the Gears of War route where we become a small community-based game that used to be popular back in the day, but then it died off and it slowly dies off for the next 5 years and eventually it completely gets cut off from the esports scene or whatever the case may be. Definitely not the route we want to go. Interested to see if you agree with any of the points that they made in today's interview. Like and subscribe if you want to stay up to date with all things going on inside the world of Apex Legends, news, drama, stories, and much more. And until the next time, we'll see you all later, Gators.